I'm quite sure I have bought more things on Amazon than any other website out there. But I've noticed some big changes. And this week, Jeff Bezos' other company, the Washington Post, they noticed as well, and so should you. Hey, it turns out our imagination isn't running wild. That shopping on Amazon has gotten worse. And as the headline says here on the Washington Post, no, not the democracy dies in darkness, because they obviously don't believe that. But on this particular article is everything on Amazon is becoming an ad. So I look at that and say, wait a minute, this is owned by Jeff Bezos. He's the founder of Amazon. Of course, he's not the owner because it's a public company. They had a lot of investment money. They went, more than a decade, I think, without making a single dime in profit. So they relied pretty heavily on investors. But is this a accidental journalism over there in the Washington Post? Or what do you think is going on? Because this article is really nailing Amazon, and I think in a good way too. And that's why I want to talk about it today. I have bought, as I said, a whole lot of things. I have a business account on Amazon. I have a personal account on Amazon. We do a lot of shopping there. We've started to do a little bit more shopping on Walmart.com as well. Target has their online store, and it's probably worth checking out. I haven't bothered. Their prices, they're pretty competitive over there, but I'm just used to Walmart. It's close to my house and it's easy to go pick up. So let's talk about shopping and where you should go online, what you should be a little bit concerned about. One of the big things, of course, when it comes to online shopping is making sure our money isn't stolen. 10 years ago, that used to be a very big deal. Hey, I'm not saying that your money can't be stolen online anymore. But why it's not such a big deal is you're shopping online, you're using a credit card, most likely. In fact, that's why I got a credit card. Before that, I'd only used debit cards and cash and checks. But I got one. And the reason is every major credit card company out there covers you. If your credit card number is stolen, if it's misused, you can just get it shut down. You can have the payment, not payment, but the bill reversed. So it shows up on your statement and you say, wait a minute, I didn't buy that Louis Vuitton bag, and you dispute it, and you can dispute it with the store you supposedly bought it from, or you can just call up the credit card company. Ta-da! You're not out anything other than obviously a little bit of time, but it's not like a debit card where that money comes directly out of your bank account instantly to pay for that Louis Vuitton bag that you didn't buy. So the credit card companies have made it so much easier to shop online. And you'd kind of expect them to, wouldn't you? Because what are they doing? They're making money online. And the more people buy online, the more, with credit cards, the more credit card companies make. So I'm all for that. I understand that. So you're much safer than you used to be as far as spending online goes. Your email address, your password, well, those have likely been stolen over the course of years. We've talked about that before here on the show, and how you can find out if it's been stolen, where it was stolen. But I'm not going to talk about your passwords and what you should do and how to keep track of them today. We've talked about that before, and we'll talk about it again. And if you're interested, we do have a password special report that you can get by just going to craigpeterson.com/subscribe and get on the newsletter, because I'm pretty sure I still send that out. I have a little automated sequence for that. When you sign up, you'll get that password special report. You can just email me, me@craigpeterson.com, and I will make sure you get a copy of it. You have to ask me, right? Because I get an email that doesn't say anything. I have no idea what's going on. So say you want the password thing. Anyhow, back to online shopping. The other thing about Amazon is it's not necessarily the best price out there. As a rule, their prices aren't bad. They certainly strong-arm some of their sellers, and we're going to get into some of those strong-arm tactics that really hurt small businesses. But as a rule, the prices aren't too bad. So what WAPO did, the Washington Post, is they went online to Amazon and they did a couple of searches and they compared the results from 2015 to results from today to get an idea. So they did a search for cat beds. So they've got a screenshot of it here in the article, and it was in the newsletter. You should have seen it in there. But this is showing the first page of results. And there are 6 results here on the first page. Now remember, looking for cat beds. Well, they've got this Bodescient brand, which my understanding is that is an Amazon brand. We'll talk about that in a minute. And they have also on here cat beds, right? We're looking for cat beds, 2 dogs in beds. Now, years ago, Amazon search engine was wonderful, and it would give you exactly what you're looking for. You could do a comparison, decide what you wanted, what was the best thing for you. And of course, you can still do that to a degree. But what they are now doing is taking sponsored results. And so they're showing it they've got an orange highlight on top of all the results that are sponsored. In other words, this first page of results, there's 6 results, and they're pretty big, so that's why it is taking up a full page, are paid for advertisements by the company that's selling them. Now, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with a paid advertisement. It would be nice if the ad matched what you're looking for. You know, cat beds. Don't show me a dog, an Amazon Basics cooling elevated pet bed. I don't know cats that would actually like that. I know dogs that would. And this soft plush round bed that's showing a picture of a dog, right? It's just kind of crazy. They got a cat tree, which is neat, and places on that tree for them to sleep. So there's an ad for this Bodescient at the top. And there are 3 results that paid their way to the top of the cat beds listing. And they're not all relevant. And one of these is a luxury cat condo, I guess is what you might call it, that costs a mere $389. That's that cat tree that I was talking about, right? So scrolling down to the second screen, the very first result is yet another ad. And we're finally starting to see non-ads. And what's interesting here is these ads, when they're showing a pet, they are cats. And then you go down a little bit further here, and guess what? We're back to some of these these sponsored ads. So what you're looking for on Amazon is the small word that says sponsored. Sometimes it's in the ads. So I'm looking at a screenshot here, again from that article that was in the newsletter from the Washington Post, that's showing sponsored based on star rating and number of customer ratings. Now, it's kind of small. It's at the top. So we've become used to seeing sponsored in the text of the ad, either in the bottom right-hand corner of the ad or maybe up above the banner for the ad. In this case, no. It is above all 3 of them. It's one line above the 3 different listings. You see how they're getting tricky? And so now you go to the next. So first page, all ads. Second page, 1/5 of them are ads. The third page, and it's all ads again. So there's also an interesting little label here, which is highly rated. But don't be fooled by that, because in fact, these are not the highest rated cat beds on Amazon. Again, they are just ads. Isn't that amazing? So you scroll again, the screen has even more ads. So half of the listings on this next page, page number 4, are ads again. And it's really, again, really tricky, because instead of saying sponsored, as we talked about before in each ad, or even sponsored on the top of the page above the ads, This time it's saying Amazon's private and select exclusive brands. Again, it's an ad, right? So it's not based on what you might want as much or how well rated it is, as much as it is who's going to pay us to place their product on the page. We're not used to this with Amazon. With Amazon, we're not so much the product, are we? Because we're paying for something. It's not like Facebook where, hey, it's free. Well, yeah, and we're the product, which means it's not exactly free. You're selling our information. You're promoting stuff to us. On Amazon, we kind of expected a little bit different treatment because we are paying Amazon. Now, we're going to cover this some more here, so don't go anywhere. But these top-rated brands have something in common that we're going to talk about. Make sure you get my newsletter, by the way. This was in the newsletter. We have all kinds of great stuff in there, more information for you. But you got to be on the newsletter. It's absolutely free. And I'm not just pounding you with ads, right? I'm not Amazon. Just go to craigpeterson.com/subscribe. And if you have any notes on the radio show or the podcast or any of the other stuff I do, I'd love to hear from you. What should I cover? Just email me, me@craigpeterson.com. We've long known that if it's free, you are the product, right? Facebook, Twitter, think of all of those guys. And now we're finding out that Amazon has kind of changed their strategy to our detriment. Amazon used to be a place you could go online, find good deals, well, way back when on books, right? Now it's on almost anything, and feel comfortable with that purchase. But a lot of things have changed. Amazon is now a minor seller on its own platform. Amazon doesn't make the stuff they're selling, obviously, and they also are making other people pay to keep inventory in Amazon's warehouses. In fact, what's happened here is Amazon has become a fulfillment company. It's become an advertising arm, in fact, for many of these, vendors, really, manufacturers, etc. Some of these are Chinese firms, some of them are U.S. firms, some people are in the U.S. but are taking their products, having them made in China or elsewhere and selling them on Amazon. There have been some pretty big lawsuits against Amazon for damage caused by products sold by Amazon. Although Amazon didn't source it, they said we're just acting as a fulfillment house. Some pretty interesting cases if you're an attorney and you want to look into it a little bit more. It's really something to see what they've been doing. But we've been going through some of these listings on Amazon. This is based on an article from the Washington Post, and we're talking about cat beds in this particular case here. So we've looked through the first 5 pages of results, and we found some interesting things, and we got a bunch more to go after here, just to help you guys understand shopping online. Most of us do. Most Americans not only do shopping online, but we're buying online, which is another change. It used to be people did the research online, then they went to brick and mortar store to check it out and buy it. Nowadays, the majority of people are using their smartphones. They're going online, they're buying there and having it shipped directly to them. Interesting stuff, eh? So under the next page of results, it's saying top rated from our brands. And yet, again, these are all sponsored. We've got another dog photo, right? It just keeps going on and on. And if you keep on scrolling, the ads keep coming, and sometimes they're repeats. I know you've probably noticed that, right? On TV, radio, the internet, some of these ads just keep on coming. So on these first 5 screens, more than 50% of the space was dedicated to ads and Amazon touting its own products. So I want to talk about its own products here for a little bit, because I have been harmed by this sort of thing. Not by Amazon, but by this sort of thing, as many people I know have been. You see, what Amazon has been accused of doing is going on its little way. People sign up, they have their little business, right? Mom and pop, you worked really hard. You paid $100,000 to have dyes made so that you can injection mold things, and you worked out a lot of the kinks, and the house is all mortgaged, and you start selling it. And how do I get real distribution? Well, let's just do it over on Amazon. So off you go. You're over on Amazon. Yay you. And Amazon notices, hey, wait a minute now, this little gadget is selling really, really well. In fact, they've got a few different models of that gadget. And then they are accused of doing the same thing Microsoft has been doing. When Microsoft notices something selling pretty well, they go ahead and make their own product to compete with mom and pop that made the gadget, that put their life and their livelihood, their retirement into it. And now all of a sudden, we've got an Amazon brand competing against them. Now, I got to say here too, in all fairness, anybody can go online to Amazon and figure out what's selling well and then source it in China or somewhere else and compete directly against them. So it's not as though Amazon is the big, evil, mean company out there and the only one doing this sort of thing. I interviewed a guy on my show a few years back, and he goes out to the Consumer Electronics Show. He was so proud telling me this, and I was sitting there saying, my gosh, I can't believe you'd actually admit to this. But the Consumer Electronics Show is in Lost Wages, Nevada. Every January, they had a bit of a hiatus and did things remotely. I used to go every year and record interviews there, but I'm not so much into that sort of thing, so I haven't done it for a couple of years. And what ends up happening? Well, people are going there to what? To show their wares. Usually they're very small companies. There's the big guys are there too. You've got Adobe and Microsoft and some of these others that have these huge booths. Of course, you'll see Sony there and Viazio and all of these big consumer brand names. Remember Gold Star, now called LG's there. It just goes on and on. But there are whole major sections of the Consumer Electronics Show that are dedicated to startups, to mom and pop things, where they've got this great idea for a great little widget, and they bring it there and show it there. So this guy was bragging to me about how he goes to CES every year. And he talks to these people and finds stuff that he likes. Oh, that's a cool little speaker. That sounds really good. Hey, I've got some retail stores. Can you send me a sample so I can check it out? I don't want to carry it around the show, which a lot of people say, which I say, right? I don't want to carry it around. So they send him a free sample, which is reasonable, right? They're hoping to make some sales. Retail store, man, that's exactly what we're looking for. Retail electronics stores. So they send it to him. And so he's bragging to me about all of this and saying, well, so then what I do is I play with it a little bit, and if I like it, I ship it off to my buddy in China and have it made for cheap. And then I start selling them with my own brand name on it. That's what he does. And it isn't just one product, it's multiple products. Like lots of them. His store was full of these types of products. A real problem, if you ask me. That's just so underhanded. I think it's unethical. So all of these people who were at the Consumer Electronics Show that paid their way probably spent $20,000, $30,000 just to be at the show with their crew, with the space rental. You got to pay for the carpet. You know what it's like at these trade shows. It gets very expensive very fast. And what happens? Well, before they can even start up the manufacturing in China, to mass produce these things, this guy has already got it made, reverse engineered, made, and then he's selling it. It's a terrible, terrible thing. So I was talking about Amazon when it comes to this. I don't like this, but it's pretty common. And I know one guy anyways who's selling a course on how to do this, how to find something popular on Amazon or on one of these funding sites that are out there, and then take that idea and run with it. So we're going to talk about how you can avoid this a little bit more when you are online shopping, and how you can tell, are those reviews legitimate? I'm going to tell you what some of these underhanded companies are doing to make their products look like they're worth buying, even though they might not be. Man, the unethical stuff that's been happening. What's coming on? What's going on with this world, right? I just don't know. All right, so stick around. Make sure you sign up for my newsletter. There's so much great stuff. We're approaching 10,000 subscribers right now. CraigPeterson.com/subscribe. You'll find out everything you need to know, from patches, how to apply them, which ones you even have to worry about, through stuff like this every week. CraigPeterson.com. You've probably shopped online at Amazon, maybe Walmart, Home Depot, and Target. They all have great offers online. Their sites are pretty easy to use, but there are a lot of sneaky ads as well. So when you have the results, we know to look for sponsored. We know to look for house brands. And a lot of the brands that Amazon has are actually house brands. In other words, it's their own contracts with manufacturers that are making them for Amazon. So some of the stuff even sounds pretty cool, like it's some fancy French designer or something. In reality, it's just some Amazon guys. But how can we know which of the reviews are legit and which reviews are not? And where the ads are. Now, there was a comparison done, and again, this is on the WashingtonPost.com website, a comparison done between Amazon, Walmart, Home Depot, and Target. And they looked at the average number of sponsored results on the first page of product search queries. And what they found was Amazon has the most. So the first page, on average, it had 8.5 sponsored results. Next worst was Walmart. And they've gotten quite a bit worse over the last 2 years, by the way. Amazon's gotten a little bit better. So since October 2020 or so. So Walmart has about 4 ads in the first page of results. And then way down, Home Depot and Target both have less than 2 ads on the first page of results. So that tells you a little bit of something here. Amazon is definitely becoming a advertising platform for people. Really. Much less than, hey, go to Amazon, get the best price, get it quickly. It's, yeah, we'll do that for you. Maybe we'll get you the best price, but probably not. And you'll get it pretty quickly, but, we don't have next day as much as we used to have. Oh, and, yeah, we're making a lot of money by charging people to have their products featured on the first pages of results, which is pretty interesting when you get right down to it. So what can you trust now? Let's say that you've got the shill results in front of you, but it's hard to tell. It's easy to tell if you can read the word sponsored, right? Or you can read that it's an Amazon brand. But how about if you're looking at something? By the way, Amazon made $31 billion in ads last year. It's now the 3rd largest online ad company in the United States, trailing only Google and Facebook. Remember, Google and Facebook, you are the product. They're selling you. They're selling your information. Well, Amazon's doing the same thing. It's just incredible. So Amazon insists they're actually doing a good thing for us. They've got a quote here again in the Washington Post. "We are dedicated to providing customers with a world-class shopping experience, including working hard every day to ensure the ads they see are useful, informative, and help make shopping a little bit easier," said a spokesman by the name of Patrick Graham, or however you might pronounce it. So let's see here. Let's talk about spotting the fake reviews. So you look at that review and you'll see that product there with stars, right? And usually it's like 4.5 stars. Sometimes it's only 4 stars. Have you ever noticed that, by the way? You don't really see too many 1-star things in there. Well, part of the problem are fake reviews, because if you're shopping on Amazon, there's a very good chance you'll see fake reviews. So if you read them, and this is how you can tell where they're legit. First of all, are there a lot of them? If there's 10,000 reviews at 4.5 stars, they're probably mostly legitimate. If there's a couple hundred reviews, yeah, that could be a problem. So reading them, you might notice that it is kind of suspiciously glowing term description. You might find that it doesn't really describe the item, just like these ads we were talking about for cat beds where it's showing pictures of dogs, right? And so it'll be generic. I found these before of my family uses this product every day, and it's been the best product we've ever had. They don't mention the product name. They don't mention the actual use of it, or the kitty cat likes the cat bed. Those are very suspicious. So these short 5-star reviews are intended to game the system because they're trying to boost a product's ranking and visibility. So what some of these companies have been doing is they hire people to buy the product from Amazon and then give it a 5-star rating. So let's say the product is usually these are the cheaper products. Let's say it's a $5 or $10 product on Amazon. So they'll send them $20 and have the person buy the product and then give the product a good rating. Yeah, that's actually an industry, believe it or not. But there's also some more subtle attempts to get you to try and get you to buy here. But sometimes paid reviewers will go into some detail. Maybe they'll share photos and even include a con alongside many of the pros for the product, because that's something that most of us look for. When I'm looking at those star ratings, I look at the top ones, but I also look at the worst ones. I want to see what the 1 stars are, because that's going to tell me, well, wait a minute now, this doesn't look legit, or that gave them a 1 star, and that's exactly what I planned on using the product for, right? For a legitimate review. So they might score the product 4 out of 5 stars, just to make it a little more convincing. They also very frequently have very poor English grammar. Now, that's a tough one, because there's a lot of people that don't have great grammar, but you know what? It's pretty common to see very, very bad grammar in some of these paid reviews. I've also had an occasion where I bought one of these handheld massagers, and in the box was a card right at the very top that said, "Hey, give us a review on Amazon and we'll send you an extra battery." And I immediately had alarms going off in my head that this was obviously just trying to get me to review it or other people to review it. And I said, oh, what the heck? Let's try it. So I went online and I gave it an honest review. I did not like how it rattled and it was pretty loud. I ended up buying a different massager that was way, way better. But it rattled and it was pretty loud. I didn't really like it very much. I think I gave it 3 stars. It did the job of massaging quite well, but what it didn't do very well at all was be comfortable and pleasant to use, which you kind of hope, right, when you're buying a product. So that's another thing they're doing. They will. I had given the review. I sent it in to them just to see what would happen. And no surprise, of course, never heard from them. And I never got my free battery, right? So there are legitimate reviews that are out online. Some of the media has great reviews. There are counterfeit items that are out there, and that's a whole other problem. But you can find legitimate reviews online. Look at sites out there. Wired is an example. There was, in fact, I'm not going to mention this media outlet's name, but a major media outlet that, if you follow tech at all, you have been on their website that was selling reviews. Yeah, for consumer products. It was just crazy because I used to rely on them a little bit. And of course, until I found out what was really going on behind the scenes, major media. So buyer beware, right? And at the bottom line, hey, if you have any questions, just email me at craigpeterson.com or suggestions about things you'd like to hear me talk about, craigpeterson.com. Just me, M-E, at craigpeterson.com. Oh, did I mention it was craigpeterson.com? We've been talking a lot about Amazon and buying online, how to spot scams, etc. There is a website that I want to talk about here that is designed to do exactly that. Spot fake ads and maybe even get you a bit of a better deal. I was just listening to a song by Glenn Campbell and Wichita Lineman, and it reminded me of when I was younger, but it also reminded me of these poor guys and gals that have to go out and fix our power. So hats off to all of them, right? Our power goes out from windstorms or ice storms. Man, we remember that one a decade or so ago? Nasty ice storm hit northern Mass and southern New Hampshire. But man, there are so many unsung heroes out there. It never ends. And, you name it. The water guys, power people, all of the, of course, first responders. I was a volunteer first responder for more than a decade, and as was my wife. We both did EMS stuff, which was kind of cool back in the day. The early days kind of reminded me of Emergency, if you remember that show from the 70s. And we had some special dispensation for giving drugs and doing all kinds of different procedures out in the field. So it was pretty cool, and it was an honor to serve everybody. So I'm thinking about it right now, because we had a power failure at our place last night. Just hats off to all of the people that are out there making our lives a whole lot easier, let me tell you. Now, we're buying things online. That's established. We're using Amazon. They are the biggest out there right now for selling stuff. They're the third largest search engine in the country. I mentioned that earlier. But how do you know if an ad is fake or not? Well, there is an extension for Google Chrome. Now, let me first of all give you a little bit of word of warning. Some of you have attended my webinars where I've talked about some of the extensions, which ones you might want to use, which ones you might not want to use. To me, it's very revealing, because one of the extensions that I recommended people use saves your tabs. If you're not using them, what it does is it frees up the memory from the tab, takes a screenshot first, and just shows the screenshot on there. It speeds up your computers and saves memory and everything else. It's really kind of cool. And the reason I'm not telling you the name of that one, it was sold. The developer had developed it, wasn't making money off it, wasn't charging for it. It was all free. Isn't that wonderful? And then kind of a bad guy bought it from him, and they changed it to be spyware. So all of a sudden, something that I recommended became spyware. Now, I sent out an email to everybody letting them know that, hey, you might want to switch over to this particular plugin or extension instead. So I'm always leery when it comes to extensions, because they can watch what you're doing, where you're going. Apple's got some great little new mechanisms in there for their Safari browser that let you just give an extension access for a day or a week or a website. Really kind of nice. Google Chrome, which I don't use a lot. I have to use it sometimes because some websites just don't understand my Apple Safari browser. And if you're using Firefox, sometimes I don't understand Firefox, which is another good browser that's out there. But The bottom line is if you put an extension on, at some point it's going to have access to your stuff. And when we're shopping online, there's advertisers like Honey. You've probably heard of them before. And I've tried their extension out. I got to try these little browser plugins so that I can talk about them and know what they're about. But the idea behind that one is as you go on the web and you cruise around and you're on a website that happens to sell something, they'll say, hey, I can get you a better deal. And they usually do, but they are tracking you. They are selling your information. They're using that information. Is that good? Is that bad? Well, you know what? It really depends on you and your opinion about it, because it's really neither good nor bad. It's not like TikTok that is bad. No two ways about it. TikTok collecting information on you, using it to manipulate you during election cycles, tracking our kids, and TikTok's really bad. So browser extensions are usually not either good or bad. Sometimes they're bad, as I mentioned, because they start stealing your information. So this one, I'm just going to let you know because it looks like it's pretty good, but you're going to want to keep an eye on it. It's called FakeSpot, FakeSpot.com is where you'll find it online, FakeSpot. And this is a site that analyzes the Amazon reviews. So when you're on Amazon, you're on a product page, you can go ahead and say, hey, is this page good or not? You might have to put the URL into it, though, but it pops out a grade. So it'll give you a letter from A to F to tell you if it thinks the review is legitimate or not. It's using what they call artificial intelligence, machine learning is what I would call it. But anyways, it takes you to the grade, lets you know what's up. But also, by the way, this is how they make their money. It has some links to other helpful information, like the manufacturer's grade and details, and where you might be able to find it at a better price. So they will go ahead now and use their little code on this other website and use that for you to buy the product, right? So that nothing, no skin off your nose, not a big deal. You know, they're going to make a couple of bucks. They got to stay in business, right? I don't know why so many people seem to think that profit is evil. Profit is how you're paid. That's how the paycheck happens, right? You've got to have profit or you don't have a business. You don't have a service. So if there's too few reviews for a real accurate assessment, FakeSpot isn't really going to help you out. Or if the reviews are really all from a course of a week or two, maybe when a product was first released, then, okay, again, it's still not going to help you out a lot. Brand new products is not going to help you out. But, you know, it's really a good thing to have a look at. If you do a lot of shopping online, you're trying to figure out if it's valid or not. Fakespot.com, and you can add it to your Chrome browser. With Chrome, I don't know if you've noticed, if you add an extension, up at the top right of the screen, there's this little thing, looks like a puzzle piece that you can click on up in the toolbar, and it will show you all of the extensions that you have and whether or not they're enabled. So I tend to disable them when I am not, when I'm not using a browser extension. FakeSpot does have Facebook pixels on it. I checked that. There's 2 pixels, which means that if you go to that fakespot.com website and then later on you are on Facebook, expect to see some ads from our friends at FakeSpot while you're there on Facebook, okay? So, yeah, can you trust them? Can you not? It's kind of difficult. So there's other sites out there you might want to check out that do independent reviews for some of the different things, but you got to make sure they're legitimate. You got to look for fakes. We've talked about that already. Ignore these fake reviews. Pay attention to the reviews that say verified purchase, because that means that whoever did the review did buy it. But I explained earlier how that can be thwarted as well by bad guy selling something, sending money to people to write reviews who then use that money to buy it and then keep the change, right? Look at negative reviews because they can often tell you a lot. I always go to the negative reviews, the 1-star reviews, to see, okay, what was it people did not like about it? And does that matter to me? Just because somebody wrote a negative review doesn't mean it's a problem for me. Review dates you're going to look at, your ratings distribution, all of that sort of stuff. And use external sites to really educate yourself. A lot of information here on shopping online. Some of the red flags that might show a fake campaign review, like there's a high percentage of 5-star reviews. Lack of the detail, I talked about that already, like a nice product or awesome, or my family uses it every day, or my cat loves it and it's a dog bed, right? Mentions of competing products, that's something that's interesting because it's not obviously promoting this product, it's trying to drive you to another product out there. Wording similar to other reviews that are out there, poor grammar, spelling mistakes, multiple reviews on the same date or dates. And that's particularly a red flag if there's been long gaps between the dates of the reviews or these clusters of reviews. The customers also bought section contains unrelated products. That tells you a lot right there, because that means the Amazon algorithm looked at the comments and looked at the description of the product and is giving you unrelated stuff, while some of those reviews might actually be for a different product. I've seen that one before too. Glowing reviews with one small negative that isn't a deal breaker, that could be, a problem. I mentioned what I had done with that back massager, and I gave an honest review. It was a good little back massager, but man, does it make a racket. All right, so is that going to be viewed by you, if you were to see that, as a fake review? I don't think so. Obviously, it's not a fake review. And also, if the reviews are kind of explaining away the cons, right? So ultimately, there's no foolproof way to spot fakes, because legitimate reviews sometimes have those elements, like mine has, but you can always dig deeper. And obviously, it has to do with the price too, right? If you're paying $10 for something, it's not the end of the world, right? If it doesn't quite do what you want, Amazon will take it back and you can get something else. And even if they don't take it back, which they usually do, it's not, hopefully not going to break your budget. But anyways, it might. You got to be very, very careful. Very careful, all right? There's another one. I mentioned Fake Spot. There's one called Review Meta. And that lets you put a URL in to get an analysis and adjusted score. So check that out. And the review index, that tries to identify fake reviews and flag them, but it also offers some, useful summaries, and it puts together different categories of elements of the different products and really helps you with your shopping. Now, as I mentioned before, I cannot vouch for all of these, that's for sure. These things change, people buy them, but you should have a quick look. So Review Meta, I'm on that right now. So if I go to my Amazon page, here's Amazon. Let me just hit on buy it again. No, I'm going to connect this. Deals for me, right? Let's see what they got. And I'm on that product. All I have to do is take that URL and stick it right into reviewmeta.com. Hey, all of this was in my newsletter, the free one. If you did not get that newsletter, man, sign up now. We're approaching 10,000 subscribers. Comes out every week and is absolutely free. CraigPeterson.com. There have been a lot of people reporting email scams to me. We've talked about a few of them before on the show as they come up, but right now we've got a big warning out from our CISA, the national guys that are watching cybersecurity. So that's what we're going to talk about right now. Hopefully you got my newsletter on Monday or Wednesday this week. We've been sending it out twice just in case people miss it. Anybody who doesn't open it the first day, we will resend it because there's so much important stuff in there, and I appreciate it. We've got thousands and thousands. We're halfway to 10,000 people on our weekly email list, and the activity rates are crazy on it. We get about half of all of you guys open that email every week. That's just unheard of. So I know I'm helping you. And if you are not a subscriber, take a couple of minutes right now. This is my free email list. Yeah, I have things in my postscript about stuff that I offer, particularly for businesses, but this is for everyone. I really am trying to help make this world a bit of a better place by helping everybody understand what they should be doing. And that means you personally, you individually, because there's things in that email that are for individuals, they're for retirees, they're for small companies, all the way up through multinationals. And I've had every one of those as a client over the years. This week, I really focused in on an email, in my email, on this article from identityiq.com. You can find a direct link to it by going online. And the author of this article is Kristen Austin. Very interesting stuff that she points out. This is from October 9th, this particular blog post, really. And she goes through in some detail what happens if your email address is stolen. So I'd like to start with something that I've really emphasized here over the years. There's a guy named Troy Hunt down in Australia, and he has been going on the dark web and collecting these massive troves of data that has been stolen. And he continues to do it. And now the federal government is helping him out a little bit by providing him with information, as are pretty much all of the major companies out there. And then he puts it all together into a free database. It's called Have I Been Pwned? PWNED. .com. PWNED. I know it's a little odd, pwned. That goes way back to some of the earlier video games, but PWNED. And that means that your account, your password has been owned. That might be the easiest way to remember it, even though that's not really the derivation, but haveibeenpwned.com. This lets you check if your email account has been stolen in a breach, your phone number has been stolen in a breach, and it also describes details of the breach that it found your information in. It also lets you check passwords. So if I click here on haveibeenpwned.com on their homepage and click on passwords right at the very top, you should probably try and follow me along here. And let's use the password that was used by the DNC, the Democratic National Committee. I think it was the vice chair, or maybe it was the presidential guy. Anyways, I can't remember the guy's name now. But he used a password of P @ instead of A, he's so clever, SSW0RD. That is a password that he used. So if we put that in there, which I just did, it comes back and says, oh no, pwned. This password has been seen almost 74,000 times before, which means this password has been found probably in multiple breaches over the years here, frankly, and has been seen just 74,000 times, a lot of times. Of course, it could appear more than once. That's kind of bad, isn't it? How about let's try another one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, that's 5 million times it's been seen in stolen password databases. How about 09876544321? There you go. That's clever. Yeah. Oh, it's much more clever than 1 through 8. It has only been seen 500,000 times. We're looking at haveibeenpwned.com. I want you to go there online right now. Have HAVEI been BEEN pwned. This is where it gets tricky. PWNED.com. So you can look at all of these passwords. It's warning you about password reuse and password stuffing, which is one of the things that we see, credential stuffing. And what happens with credential stuffing is that they are taking advantage of human nature. You know, you would be a pretty normal person if you were using the same credentials on multiple websites. So what are your credentials? Usually they are your email address and a password. And it's hard to remember all of these passwords. I was speaking with a gentleman named Bob this week about his usage of passwords, and he took my advice. He's been using 1Password. I don't want you to get confused and think Craig's telling me just use the same password everywhere. There is a website called onepassword.com. You can get their software. I use it myself. We use it for our business. We have clients that use it as well. There's a free version, there's paid versions, but it is a password manager. And that password manager helps you remember multiple passwords. I have over 3,000 entries in my 1Password database. That's a lot, isn't it? And I can and I do generate a unique password every time I go online, because credential stuffing is where they take these breached accounts and put them all together and then try and breach other potential accounts. So I'm going to read here just a real short thing from Troy Hunt's website, troyhunt.com. He's the guy that runs Have I Been Pwned. I'm loading over 1 billion breached accounts into Have I Been Pwned. These are from 2 different combo lists, which are collections of email addresses and passwords from all sorts of different locations. I verified their accuracy, including my own record in one of them, and many hundreds of millions of the email addresses are not already in Have I Been Pwned. Because of the nature of the data coming from different places, if you're in there, then treat it as a reminder that your data is out there circulating around you and that you need to go and get yourself a password manager and create strong, unique passwords. Now, there's a lot more information you can go to there, but I want to also point out the whole idea behind the password managers is really to give unique passwords, so they can't do credential stuffing. So if you have, for instance, an email address of dnc@gmail.com, and you have a password of p@ssw0rd, we know now how to get into your Google account. Now, how do you get that password? How did they get that password? It's often through social engineering, but it can also be because a website was breached and the database was stolen from that website. But now we know how to get into that Gmail account, let's say. So next step is, how about let's look at that email. So you go and the bad guys look in that email account and they say, oh, here's a statement from Bank of America. Oh, here's one from TD Bank. So then what they do is they go to those banks. They try and log in with dnc@gmail.com. And they try and use the wonderful password that they already have for his Gmail account. And then what happens? Well, they're in, right? They're in. Because the person used the same password, the same username or email address on both sites. But even if there is a different password over there at the bank, what do? Well, they hit recover password or forgot password. And then they put in the email address, dnc@gmail.com, and the bank sends off a password reset link to where? Where's it send it? Yeah, it sends it to dnc@gmail.com. And who has access to dnc@gmail.com? The bad guys. So now they have it, they are in, and they can do pretty much whatever they want with your bank account information. That's why it's so important. And then they'll also do just generic credential stuffing, depending on the website and the kind of anti-software that it has built into it. So what they do then with the email stuffing, is they just try all kinds of usernames and passwords that they've stolen. And there are a lot of them. So back to haveibeenpwned.com, I'm going to put in my email address of craig@craigpeterson.com. Oh, no pwned. So it's telling me that my email address, at the very least, is being found in 6 data breaches. So there's one is telling me from 2019 or 2018, and it tells you what was stolen. Email addresses, employers, geographic locations, job titles, names, phone numbers, salutations, social media profiles. What that is telling you now is the bad guys have enough information to try and con me into doing something I shouldn't do because they know my job title, they know where I am, they know my phone number. Do you see where we're going with all of this stuff? And others as well. There's a whole bunch. The most recent for mine was in December 2020. NetGalley. All right. We're going to talk more about this. We got a lot more to cover. This is a great article, and this is all information we all need to know and understand like the back of our hands. We've just been talking about credential stuffing and have I been pwned. Make sure you listen to that if you haven't already. You'll find it on my podcast at craigpeterson.com. This is really important stuff, and we're talking about an article in Identity IQ. So they've stolen our email address. They've got our password. They know the password works because they tried it on at least one website. Whether this is your personal email address or your work email address, there are lots of bad things the scammers can do. We talked about scammers, hackers could go into your bank account and do whatever they wanted with any money that's in there, right? Which is scary. No question about that one. Not that there's much money in my account, but anyhow. There are other people who are using your email address and your email account to send out emails to other potential victims. So they are buying your information from data brokers. They might be getting them from the dark web. They might be email harvesting, scraping websites, social engineering. There's a lot of stuff they could be doing. One of my clients this week sent me an email because they had received a phishing email, obviously not from the person that they thought it was from, right? That it was supposedly from, but it is a problem. Phishing, right? So I looked it up a little bit more and found out that as of right now, about 20% of all phishing emails are making it through Microsoft Exchange servers, including Microsoft 365. Now, phishing is a real problem, and with this particular client, they sent it to me because it's so rare they actually see a phishing email, because we don't just use the Exchange filters. We have some advanced email filters that we have from Cisco that allow us to do some really great stuff in blocking almost all of them. So I sent them to a website I'd like you guys to go to right now. And that is a website that's free. It's put up by our friends at Google. And the URL, here, we'll give it to you right now. I want you guys to open your browser. This works on a desktop. It works on a tablet or a phone. It's Phishing Quiz. Phishing is spelled PH. This type of phishing. PHISHING. Quiz, all one word, Phishing Quiz. With Google, all one word, with WITHGOOGLE.com. phishingquiz.withgoogle.com. You can go there and put some information. Now, it doesn't keep it. It's just going to make a fake. You can use a fake name, fake email address. It really doesn't matter. So I'm going to do it right now. So my name I'm going to say is John. My email is going to be john@johnemail.com. And then I'm going to click Get Started. So hopefully you're following along with me. phishingquiz.withgoogle.com. So it says, let's start with this Google Doc email. Be sure to check out link URLs by hovering or using long presses and explore the addresses. Don't worry, none of the links work. We don't want you to send you anywhere funny. So this is showing an email from luke.jason8000@gmail.com. It says Luke Johnson has shared a link to the following document, 2022 Department Budget.doc. Hey there, here's the doc you asked me for. Let me know if you need anything else. So if you hover over it, and I'm using Chrome right now because I'm assuming that's what most of you guys are using, you'll see that it is pointing to drive-google.com/luke.johnson. If you click on that, it actually doesn't do anything, okay? But it could potentially. So it's saying, well, is this legitimate or not? Well, I'm looking at this and I see a couple of problems with it right off the bat. The first one is the URL, when you mouse over that department budget document, is http://. So instead of HTTPS, it's HTTP. That means it's not using a security certificate. The second thing I see is it isn't drive.google.com, it's drive-google.com. Interesting. Now, up at the top of the screen, right above this email, it has two buttons, phishing or legitimate. So I'm going to hit legitimate because I'd like to see what they have to say. It says, this is actually a phishing email. The URL looks correct, but is actually a lookalike. Be cautious about hyperlinks and attachments that you open from emails. They may direct you to fraudulent websites. So if you click on Show Me now, it is telling you. It's a little pop over, says mousing over the link or using a long press shows you that it goes to the insecure imitation domain drive-google.com. You click on Next, and it takes you to the next one. So I'd like you guys to spend a few minutes running through this. Give this URL to your family. Give it to your friends. Take it to work because it's really important. This next example is a fax. It says fax message no reply admin, and it's from no reply at efax.com. And yet the logo in this email is EFAX, not FACKS. That smells kind of fishy to me. Now, it says you have received a one-page fax at, and it gives you the date. It's today's date and today's time. So if you mouse over, click here to view this fax online. Have a look. This is interesting because, again, the URL has HTTP at the beginning instead of HTTPS, which means it's not using a secure certificate. And it is pointing to efax.hosting.com.mailru382.co. Wow, that tells you something here. Well, first of all, it's a Colorado URL. Mail.ru makes me think it might be Russia, but the big giveaway is efax.hosting.com is the first part of this URL, which means it's not sending you to efax. And then it's got efax delivery, blah, blah, blah. So if you were to click on this, this one has a unique URL. At the very end of it, you can see it has this 2017 DK4H, blah, blah. Bunch of random looking numbers and digits, or letters and digits. That is then used to track you. So they know they were able to con you into clicking on that link in the email. Is that a problem or what? Okay, that is a problem, no question about it. Now, they also have another little button. If you look at that email, again, we're at phishingquiz.withgoogle.com. You'll see it says to me, and it has a little pull down button right next to it. So if you click on that, it shows you that it's from the same thing was showing us before, no reply at efax.com. and who it's to, the date, and the subject. Okay, so that all looks legit. So what do you think? Is this legit or not? I think I've kind of shown that it's a phishing email, right? So click on phishing and correct. So they have multiples of these available right there, all free, all private, and it really helps you to know a phishing email, what the easiest ways are to tell if it's a phishing email. And then what do you do if you get one? Well, report it. Report it to your IT people or report it to your cybersecurity people, depending on who you are in the organization you're in, or if it's just you, well, you probably don't want to report it because no one's going to listen. These days are crazy. We've been talking about your email passwords, and account compromises. We're going to get to what you can do if it's happened to you. But first, and right now, we're going to talk about signs that your email account has been hacked. Now, I get calls from people when they're having these problems. I get emails, just me at craigpeterson.com. I'm always glad to help out, right? I don't charge. My wife keeps getting after me for that, but I really want to help you guys, right? And hopefully there's businesses out there that'll keep me busy and can make some money off of them. But let's talk about some signs that your email account has been hacked, because this is going to tell you that you need to immediately take some action. Number one, you can't log into your account. Now, this happens frequently. It's happened to me many, many times, and I'm therefore sure it's happened to you as well. But if you can't log into your account, it can be a bunch of things. Me, it's usually my fat fingers, right? In other words, I mistyped it. That's the colloquialism for mistyping is fat fingers. And I just, I get something wrong. I got some special characters in it. Much of the time nowadays, I'm not typing in a password at all, because I'm using a password manager. But when a hacker gains access to your account, when they've got your username, which is usually your email address, and they've got your password, the first thing they can do is change your password. And many of them do that. And we're talking about your email account here, because that is kind of the golden ring that they can grab, and once they've got it, as we explained, they can use it to get access to pretty much everything, including your bank accounts if you haven't done things right. So they will change your password, and that's going to restrict your access to your account. This happened to a friend of mine, a very good friend, and he ended up losing a bunch of money because of that. But he couldn't log into his account and just chalked it up to, I'm getting older, I probably forgot what my password was, and that wasn't the case. So if you can't log into your account, the chances are that the hacker has locked you out of your own account. Different websites, different email sites have different policies for what they can and will do for you if your account is taken over. Many of them, unfortunately, put a time delay on it. They say, we'll set it to a new password for you in 30 days. And that's what happened to my friend. They told him, this was Hotmail. They said, in 30 days, we'll change it for you. Hotmail, of course, is a Microsoft product and is not one you should actually be using anymore. And I've told him that again and again. And so we set him up with a Google account because he didn't want a paid account and he didn't want to mess around with encrypted stuff. And so we set him up with a Google account. And sure enough, 30 days later, I'm getting emails from him from his Hotmail account because he's just switched back to it. I don't know. It's a little annoying. So he'll be calling me again, I'm sure, about an account takeover. So number one reason that you should be worried that your account has been taken over is you can't log into your account. Number two, you start getting strange messages popping up on your social media accounts. This is from an article in Identity IQ here that we're kind of running through their main points. So if you've been posting on social media, we're talking about things like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and if your recent account or posts in those accounts are showing products that you have never clicked on before, it's showing you things that you haven't searched for. Someone might have gained access to your email address and your social media accounts, because we know that advertisers are paying really good money to know what you are looking for. So you start seeing strange things popping up, someone else might be using your social media account. Number 3, your family members or friends are receiving emails that you did not send. This is an oldie but a goodie. We've been seeing this one for, 2-3 decades now, frankly. And it's a dead sign, absolute sign that your email account has been compromised. Because you get notes from friends saying, hey, did you send me this? Why did I get this from you? In those cases, back in the old days, what they would do is they would take over your account, your email account, download all of the email addresses, or at the very least, send a phishing email out to everybody that's in your contacts. And it looks like it's coming from you, doesn't it? Because it is actually your account. We had this happen with a business client of ours who said, hey, well, wait a minute, why did we get this email? And it turned out one of the vendors of theirs, the people that they buy some of the parts from that they use to assemble their own products. One of their vendors said, "Hey, you need to send me this money because it's overdue, etc." And it wasn't legit. They said, "Hey, this isn't a good legitimate invoice." So they called up the vendor, and sure enough, the vendor said, "Yeah, that wasn't us." And then I looked at the email headers, and we delved into it pretty extensively. And what we found at that point was, the bad guys really were messing around with this. And they had taken over the email account for the financial person, for the accountant for the business. And so they were sending out invoices that had paid to accounts where they were expecting the money to be transferred, ACH'd, that was of the hackers. So people were paying invoices, and in fact, the invoices were going to the hackers. That's a similar thing to what happened to the Shark Tank lady, Barbara Cochran, where they got an invoice for, I think it was $400,000, and her accounting people went ahead and paid it, but it wasn't legitimate. They caught it in time, and you only have seconds sometimes. They caught it in time, and none of that money was transferred. So if you're getting email from a business that you're not expecting, make sure you contact them. Call them up on the phone, because it might be completely illegitimate. Same thing with friends. Call them up on the phone. Say, hey, you didn't send that? Okay, well, I'm thinking your email account got hacked. And it's their email account that got hacked, not yours, because it's coming from their email account. Your sent message folder has these spammy messages that you did not write, okay? Now, maybe you were, drunk emailing, but that's something kids are more likely to do. But if your sent folder has messages in it that you did not send, or here's another sign, your sent mail folder is empty. Then what will happen is they will send all these emails out, and then they'll go into the sent folder and just delete everything. It's much easier than selectively deleting the ones they sent. So if your email sent folder shows there is nothing in it, or if there are emails in it that you definitely did not write, your email account may well have been hacked. And remember, there are a lot of things that scammers can do once they have control of your email account. We talked about how they can impersonate you, which is a real problem. They can use it to send phishing emails to get other people to do things that they want that person to do. And the scammers can access your online accounts, because for most of us, everything revolves around and goes right back to our main email account. I have multiple accounts. When I sign up for things, I use what's called plus addressing, which lets me know when an email comes from, let's say, Apple. I know it's an email from Apple just by the address that they're sending it to. Because, in fact, I have hundreds of virtual email addresses, which is a different thing and something Apple is now offering for free. Anyways, stick around. We're going to talk about how to protect your email address and then how to recover your email account if you've been nailed by a scammer. If you missed part of today's show, email me at Craig Peterson Online and I can send you to the podcast. We are talking about your email account takeover, if it's been hacked, and we've covered a lot of stuff already today. But I'm going to go in now into how to protect your email address and what to do if it's already been stolen. Well, how to protect your email address, it's something that I've talked about before. I know we have a lot of new listeners. We always do, that are coming in and trying to figure out what's going on and how can they deal with things, right? And it's absolutely amazing when you really get down to it. How can you? What should you do? So here are the things that you can and should do if you haven't already. First of all, you need to use robust passwords. Now, for years, the recommendation was, well, have random character passwords, right? So it used to be restricted like 8 characters, and so you'd have upper, lowercase, special characters, and digits, and just all kinds of weird stuff in order to make that 8-character password good. Well, I hate to break it to some of you guys, but that 8-character password, I don't care how random it is, can be broken in a matter of a few hours at most. They're not any good anymore. You need to have a 20-character or longer password. Now, I know you're rolling your eyes. Okay, I get it. 20 characters is a lot of password, no question about it. But instead of thinking about passwords the way we used to, think about them the way they are now, the way they do work now, and that is to use a passphrase. A passphrase is where you have multiple words strung together. And so you put a special character in between the words or a number, upper or lowercase, whatever it might be. So an example of a passphrase would be 3 or 4 words. I've been using 4 words lately that don't necessarily go together. Some people might use a password like 7 years. Well, you don't want to use that one. It's just a little too common of a passphrase. But if you did something like even email inbox update, you put those words together and put some special characters between them. That's an easy one to remember. Even email inbox update, right? And I can guarantee you that password is not in use. Now, let me see. Am I fibbing here? Let me have a look. How do we look? I go to haveibeenpwned.com and we click on passwords, and then we go ahead and type it in. Even email inbox update. It is not found online, so go ahead and use that one. It's a good one. But that's the process you should be going through when you're setting up a password. Now, there is another process you can go through, which is to use a good password manager. Apple now has it built right into Safari, which is the web browser, and they have it built into the operating system as well to remember some of these passwords and to generate them. You know already, I use onepassword.com. Their software, they just had a major release of 1Password that I think did a great job. It's terrible to migrate to the latest one, but it's good to start with. So something like onepassword.com can generate strong passwords for you, and you don't even have to remember them. So that's the definition of a robust password in the 2020s. You need to also set up multi-factor authentication. Most of the time on websites, when you're talking about multi-factor authentication, it's your username. Now, unfortunately, most websites don't give you the choice of a username. You have to use your email address. I do not like that, but okay. So most of the time to log in, you need your email address or username and your password. Multi-factor authentication adds one more step to this, and that is something you have. The best kind of multi-factor authentication, well, you could argue a lot of things, but it certainly is not a text message. However, that's what most websites provide you with for multi-factor or two-factor authentication. We use for our stuff. Now, remember, I'm a managed security services provider. That's my company. So we have information about our clients. So we are, as one of these managed services providers, one of the key targets for hackers. Because if they can get into our systems, they can now get information about our clients, and in some cases maybe even get into our client system. So we actually isolate our systems from the clients, and we do all kinds of stuff to help protect it. But one of the things we do is when we're logging in to our systems, we need a username, we need a password, and then we have an app that pops up on our smartphone. And the app says, are you trying to log into this software or this website? And you say yes. And then what it does is it looks for biometric information. So it actually does a face scan of us, of whoever's trying to log in, so that we are trying to keep our stuff very safe. The only way to log in is to have a username, to have a password, obviously be able to get to that piece of software in the first place, and then have a second password and username, and then have it go to my smartphone, my individual smartphone, where I say yes, and then my smartphone scans my face to make sure it's me. That is multi-factor authentication. Just sending you a text message is better than nothing, okay? Don't get me wrong. But just sending you a text message as part of two-factor or multi-factor authentication is not going to cut it, because that text message could potentially be intercepted. Now, I want to add one more thing onto this. It isn't that it just might be intercepted, because that's a little hard for them to do, but entirely plausible for them to be able to grab your text messages. And we won't get into that now, how that's done. But the other thing that these guys are doing is they are trying to log into your account, and the website sends you a text message, and then they reach out to you and ask you for what the code was. Now, they play all kinds of games to do that, because if they just said, hey, I'm Joe, I need that message, that number that I just texted you, right? They are very, very clever. And they pretend they're IT support. They pretend all kinds of things. And people give them that information. And that lets them in, right? Account takeover. But by doing what we do in order to protect our customers' information, that's literally impossible for it to happen. So you got to consider all of these things. But enabling multi-factor authentication is very important. Make sure you're updating your device's software, all of it, particularly the security software. And that's why I'm doing this patching thing. You might have noticed in the emails, I've got this patching thing going on. I think it's really, really important, because the people that have responded to the survey, and I really wish you would take a minute and respond. It's actually 90 seconds. I'd love to hear from you. But the people that have responded so far are saying that they're relying on the Apple updates and the Microsoft updates to keep them safe. And unfortunately, that's not even close to being enough, because the updates in both cases just update the operating system, not the other software you have. And then you really should enable some form of dark web monitoring, so that you know if your account has been compromised in some way in the dark web. And I did that for people here a few years ago, and I think we were charging $100 a year. We did it for 1 year, it was just so much work on our part to do it. And we had a bunch of people sign up, but you know how that is, attrition, people dropped off and everything. But anyhow, so let's talk about how to help recover your email account from a scammer. So number one, if you can still access your account, make sure you change your login credentials immediately. Some of these websites, when you set up multi-factor authentication, have as part of that a list of 8 or 10 numbers or 6-digit numbers that you can download when you set it up. So don't lose that. I put those into my password manager as a note on the account. So many times you can use one of those numbers, those 6-digit numbers that were set up for you way back when, to log in even if you don't have the right password. So that'll get you around the bad guy that has stolen your account, pretty simply. Number two, let your friends, family members, business acquaintances know about the hack so that they don't fall for the scams that are sent by the hackers. Because people trust us, right? You and me, we know more about computers than some other people around us. Obviously, not every one of you guys knows as much as somebody else, right? There's always a bigger fish. But make sure that you let all of these people know, because some of them are really relying on you. Contact your banks, any sort of credit cards that you have, store cards, etc. If you have any financial information in your inbox, again, that goes back to the multi-factor authentication. Are you using your email address that might be compromised in order to be able to recover your bank information? I really advise people to use a separate bank account, email address for their bank account entirely. Certainly what I do. You might want to reach out to an identity and credit monitoring service to help protect you. The service can give you real-time fraud and social security number alerts, dark web, internet monitoring, even identity theft insurance, and there's various types of protection plans that are available, and some of them are quite affordable. You know, this article I was going through is from Identity IQ, and they do have plans. I never used any of these plans. I'm not sure, but some of these companies can be helpful, but really what you need to do is monitor your credit report, look for any changes. It's free now with at most banks, and pretty much I can't think of any exception as far as credit card companies go, and you can see when there's a problem. Hey, make sure you get my newsletter. All of this was in this week's newsletter. Go to craigpeterson.com/subscribe or just email me, me@craigpeterson.com, and I can send it all to you. Take care.